Yo, yo, what's good, guys? So I already recorded this one time, uh, and the audio didn't work, as Tristan pointed out. I just checked it; it should be working now. There's a little, look at this. You can see the little bit down here. It's jumping up and down. That's me. Um, but yeah, so we're gonna run through this again. It might not be, uh, it might actually be better than the first run, but you don't know what the first run is, so you have nothing to compare it to. But this is gonna be better, I promise. But yeah, let's get started here. So I'm starting this show, and I'm gonna call it Inside the JFL, so that we already have Around the JFL. Um, And Around the JFL is a really good show, and it's gonna be a uh, hard one to beat. If I'm even trying to beat them, I'm not really trying to beat them. I'm just trying to make more content because I think there's a lot of storylines that still need talking about that feasibly can't go into an hour and 15-minute episode. Um, and certainly, no one should have to sit for 2 hours and record. Um, but I'm about to because I already recorded 1 hour before this. But GG's easy. Um, I got it in the bag. That said, I do have pizza coming at 7:08. So I have some friends coming over for the World Cup match as well. Quite exciting stuff happening. But yeah, I just want to give you guys a little bit clue in as to sort of my goals with the podcast videos, whatever you want to call this, with around the J or inside the JFL. Yes, it's not meant to be confusing. Um, my favorite sports talk show is Inside the NBA with like Shaq and Chuck and Ernie and all them. Uh, those guys are hilarious. But right now it is just me, so maybe it should just be like Bush Business JFL or something like that. I don't know. Give me ideas. You guys give me some feedback. Um, but yeah, that's a little bit of an intro. As for what we're going to cover today, I'm going to be talking all about Season 9 draft, sort of as a recap. We're trying to figure out what went what went well for teams, um, what teams had a great pick record, and which teams didn't. Now, obviously, all of this is pretty biased to now because hindsight is always 2020. Um, so I'm gonna be critical of your players' performances, and maybe gonna sometimes make it sound like it's your fault. But at the end of the day, it's really hard to draft. Drafting is like a very difficult task, at least for me. Shout out Ben's article about people who are trash drafters. I'm like one of the worst. Um, but yeah, that's all beside the point. It like in the moment when you're like you have a minute on the clock, it's really easy to be like, "Yo, Harvey Burlcatch looks like a crazy player. I'm taking him." And then he winds up being like, Harvey Burlcatch. And like, there's nothing like wrong with that. That's sort of how it goes. I think the coolest part about JFL is that each of these players, not every single one is going to be an A or a B even. Hell, most of them are probably going to be C's, and a lot of the first round picks I drafted, or a lot of the first round I graded as pretty low. Um, so hopefully there's a little bit of misery loves company comfort in that. Uh, just know that I am going to be critical, but like at the end of the day, it's what makes the game special. In my opinion, anyway. But yeah, enough of my. Oh, that's it's kind of a weird spot to put the camera, I suppose. Oh, damn, it gone now. Wait. Okay, gang, I fixed the camera. We're so back. Anyway, yeah. So enough of my beautiful mug. We're gonna start talking about season 9 draft in a big recap format. Let's switch. Yes. Look at me. I'm so good with OBS, bro. It's almost like I used to stream. Anyway, let's get started. I took some notes. This is gonna be pretty. It's gonna be mostly stuff that you can find on your own, but it's all gonna be compiled into one with a little bit of a bushy analysis. So yeah, you don't have to pay for it. Anyway, we're also gonna be comparing it to the Phil Holes mock draft because I think Phil Holes is actually an incredible predictor. Um, I don't know what kind of inside baseball he's playing with, but it's quite impressive. Um, how many he's gotten right. With that, first pick was projected to be the best quarterback in the class, Matthew Maines to the Hoplites, and as it turns out, that is exactly what happened. Matthew Maines wound up going to the Hoplites. I believe he was sixth in yards. Didn't write this one down. Um, but Matthew Maines is exactly what you want in your first overall pick. He's a tremendous player. He's a playmaker, um, and he really led this Hoplites team from sort of a middle of the pack, maybe lower middle of the pack team, upper middle of the pack team, depending how you look at it, to a team that is going to be really dangerous, and it was dangerous last year. I would argue. Um, Maines is the type of guy you build a franchise around, and that's exactly what the Hoplites are going to continue to do as they improve. Um, I believe John in one of the Around the JFL episodes mentioned that he believes Maines is a dark horse candidate for MVP. Um, and I I don't know if the rest of the guys. I don't remember if Tristan and Brady really resonated with that. I think Tristan maybe gave it some kudos, but I also think that Maines has a very good chance at being the league MVP in season 10. Um, he's a tremendous player who's done a lot with a fair amount of help, but that he's only going to get more. The runs are only going to get deeper. He's only going to get more lethal. And I really think this is the type of guy that you build a franchise around and you want to get with that first overall pick. Um, and he filled a need. So for this is a no-brainer. This is the easiest A plus of the entire draft, except for one. We'll get there. Um, and Phil Holes got it right. Um, the Hoplites got it right. All parties are happy. This is a tremendous pick by the Hoplites. And second was Kevin Cronkili. I'm just gonna call him Kronk. Kronk, tremendous player. The Sentries wound up having the second and the third pick, so Phil Phil's Phil's gonna still get the cookie points because I still in all honesty he still got this pick right even though he projected it at 3. But Lucas was gonna get Kronk either way, as well as Baker. Um, Kronk's a machine. Kronk is already fourth in tight end yards. He was tied for fifth with DeBerg for touchdowns. Um, Kronk is a weapon. Kronk is going to be a generational player. Um, I think he's another type of guy that you really want to build an offense around, and maybe that's why Lucas is going for the four tight end strategy on offense this year. Um, but yeah, Kronk is a tremendous player. Um, I give this pick an A. I don't want to give it an A plus just because it's not quite the same as Maine's. He didn't turn the team around or anything like that, or give them another level. He really just helped in the way that he knows how, which is catch the ball and score the ball, and he was pretty good at it. So yeah, Crocs an A. And then is Raheem Baker, which Phil Holes also predicted correctly. Another cookie point, 3 cookie points for Phil. Uh, I was sort of surprised with the rhetoric on around the JFL surrounding Raheem Baker. Raheem Baker is an amazing player. Raheem Baker is the type of guy that you do 4 tight ends, 1 running back for. Now, I understand that it's he's no I mean he's no Rayshon Kelpery, but Raheem Baker is still a tremendous player. For a first year rookie, he had a tremendous season. He had 684 yards, 150 on 152 attempts, rushing a very efficient 4.5 yards per carry with 5 touchdowns. And while that touchdown number is a little low, he made up for it with no fumbles. Um, you know, he's only 60 yards behind Kelp, man. So I got to be careful how I talk about this guy. But I really think Raheem Baker is a machine. And if Lucas decides to go down the route of the Sonic Knuckles running back duo, that would be Raheem Baker and Carnell Cage. That is a lethal attack. I don't think you have to go get Cage to make this work. Um, and obviously, hindsight 2020 is how we're grading this. For that reason, Raheem Baker is an A. He's already in the top half of running backs, um, a hands down starter every day of the week, um, and he's only going to get better. So for that reason, the Sentries get an A for this pick as well. Uh, Pretty easy for me. And fourth up, we have an Emperor's selection of quarterback Tom Marney. Marney's an interesting case. I was when I was researching him, which of course, Phil Holes did have him on the mock draft going a pick later to the Glaciers. But I don't hate this pick. I think Phil also got the sentiment right, which was the Emperors need a quarterback. Marnie winds up ending 15th in yards for quarterbacks starting 7+ games, so for your active starters. And he ties 6th in touchdowns with the rest of the quarterbacks in the league. He has 300 less yards than Maines and 1 less touchdown. But, I think it's important to talk about this receiving core. The Emperors have Wes Bowen, obviously. Wes Bowen's an all-time great. There's no tight end like him. He's on the Mount Rushmore for a reason. He's a tremendous player. But the rest of the wide receiver room for the Emperors is a bit more questionable. I think let's look at some numbers here. Jamie, pull it up. You got Wes Bowen, 844 yards, leads the tight ends. Don't need to talk about that. 13 touchdowns, tremendous player. And then you have Russell Boones. Russell Boones, he's sort of in that middle of the class, right in there around Jazan, Dantella, Eli Monk, an aging Ricky Toon, and Brad's favorite Barney Archer. But he's not like a ringleader by any means. He's not the type of guy that I would love throwing to if I was a rookie quarterback. Great player, by all means, though, generally speaking. And then you got Anquan Ellard at wide receiver 2, less than stellar, right in there with Marty DeBerry, Matt Gregg, Salamanders legend, Jackson Metcalf, some decent names in there, but also not a crazy wide receiver 2. Shea Heinstein, my goat, also in there. He is a crazy wide receiver 2, though. Fuck is he talking about? And then we got Jim Dunn. Jim Dunn's a serviceable tight end too, as well as Alvin Samak. Yeah, he's there. Ty Hayes is gonna catch him though. My goat. And for what it's worth, I think it's important to talk about the context with the situation that all these players are going into, and I really don't think. I really don't think that Tom Marney is a bad player, but considering that he is 15th in yards and tied for 6th at touchdowns, and his situation, I'm still gonna give Marney a B plus, soft B plus B. I think he's a good player. I think he has a lot of room to improve as well. And this Emperor's team is only going to get better. They're lethal. They're definitely contenders for a deep run. And yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy with that pick if I'm the Emperors. Next up, at pick 5, you got Peyton Blanche. Um, Blanche is an interesting case as well, because Blanche did not have the same problems at wide receiver when he comes into the league here. He's ninth in yards and also tied for sixth in touchdowns with Marnie, and one other quarterback. I don't remember at the top of my head who. Um, for Also just want to say, very impressive to get three like solid first round quarterbacks. And not just first round. I'm talking like top 5. Like first within the first 5 picks to get 3 good quarterbacks. It's pretty impressive. This is a good class. Um, and I don't think that affects the grades in any way, but Blanche winds up going to the Glaciers. I think this is a B plus pick. You know, once again, it's a question of who's in the room. We got let's pull it up. You got Artie DeBerg leading in receiving for the Glaciers. Sort of similar to the tight end, not super similar to the tight end situation in the Emperors, but the tight end is the leading receiver for both the Emperors and the Glaciers. Um, Maybe they have a closer situation than seen. But then they also have Marshall Cunningham, who in my opinion is a very solid wide receiver one. Um, Not quite as good as you know Garrett Breida, AJ Cameron, those kind of guys, but still a really good guy to have in there. Um, and then you have a solid Jerry Irvin as well with another 500-yard season. I believe Jerry Irvin was picked up from the Griffins. I almost got him. I should have got him. Man, he had a good year. I really like Jerry Irvin. Uh, 5 touchdowns, 2 fumbles for the kid. But and then you got Chaz Blizzard. So you've got 3 very good wide receivers for Blanche to throw to, and I think that you got to talk about that a little bit with the rating. For that reason, I think he's also a B, right there with Tom Marty, um, just because of their situation. If Tom Marnie was a soft B plus, Peyton Blanche is an even softer B minus, just because of the situation that he was in. I think he had a great year numbers wise. Um, I'm just talking about the talent in the room with him. All around though, Blanche, great quarterback. He's a guy that I would be comfortable building a franchise around. So props to the Glaciers for hitting um, with that fifth pick. And Phil didn't get it right, but he was close enough. I'll give him half a cookie point for that. And then oh wait, yeah. At 6, the Kingfishers were projected to select DeMaurice Crayar by Phil. They wind up going in a different direction. Go with top linebacker prospect Sullivan Dahl. Um, and there's no way to steer about it. Kid had a bad year. 29 tackles, no chaos plays. Not what you want to see out of your number 6 pick, top linebacker prospect. He was only slightly better than who they wound up taking in the 3rd round in Alvarez Mazolt. Really though, there really wasn't any upgrade with this pick. For what it's worth though, I see them trying to take a position that they are in need of. And I think that deserves some merit for this pick grade. But at the end of the day, this is not what you want out of your first round pick. You want a guy who's going to change the game. You want a guy who's going to turn your team into a bit more of a weapon, and at least someone who's going to be constantly on the radar of the other team. And Dahl just was not that. And I obviously, yeah, hindsight 2020, like I keep saying. But yeah, I think what's interesting about Dahl as well is he was not even on the mock draft. So Phil knew this was going to be a bust. Um, He had him at top at number two for in his top three for per position, but he having him not in the mock draft I think hinted at a deeper understanding of Dahl's game from Phil. So I'm gonna give him a good point for this, even though the pick was wrong. I think he accurately assessed the talent. Um, and yeah, I just feel bad for the Kingfishers in this position because like it just blows up in your face. I mean, how are you supposed to tell that the number one linebacker prospect, who seemed like he had a pretty good description. Let's read this here. Man of few words, but a lot of respect. Doesn't say much, but is an effective leader nonetheless. High IQ playmaker. You're not talking about any physical characteristics there, but that's a leader. That's a guy that you expect to really pull your defense together. And I didn't see the Kingfishers defense getting a lot better. DeMar Williams was still really the only big piece to talk about there, and guess he's a big piece to talk about in Hennix now. So yeah, but yeah, I just really feel bad for the Kingfishers in this position because they kind of blow up in their face. I think a little bit of a better scouting report, you probably would have went for Brisker here instead. Um, but like I said, hindsight 2020. Let's move on. Next up at pick 7, Ramses Xavier goes to the Cobras. I don't love this pick. Uh, Xavier winds up being projected correctly by Phil. Another point for Phil. Damn, I'm gonna throw my spreadsheet away, man. Just do the mock draft. Holy, kids got it right. Anyway, Xavier only goes for 37 tackles, 1 interception. He's certainly the best DB on the roster numbers wise, in terms of tackles and interception. He's tied for first at 1 interception with Tellen Lancaster and Shea Yarden, both of which have been in the league for a few years. So, I mean, he's only going to go up, but this is, like I said, this is not the type of guy who's going to be on your radar every time you're game planning against the Cobras. I'm not game planning for him. Ryan Captain does not need to game plan for Ramses Xavier. So, unless he makes leaps and bounds improvement this year, right now that's a C minus pick in my book. You get a position you need help at. He still winds up being the best DB on your roster, but certainly not the best DB in the draft. I wonder where Phil had him on the list here. Yeah, he did have him at 1 in talent wise. Let's look at the description here. Hard hitter, unwavering mentality. That dude. Yeah, just a hard one to draft him on. I really think a better pre-draft scout might have helped you out a bit there, but you can't be mad at it. He's the number 1 prospect, so whenever you spend a pick on the number 1 prospect, you got to walk away feeling like it can't always be your fault. So feel bad for the Cobras there on that one as well. Let's move on. Number 8 pick was supposed to go to Lenore Shaman. Go Knicks. But yeah, goes to Crayart, and Crayart's disastrous. He goes 1 start, 166 yards, 52%, looking like Clay Duke out there. And it looks like he might be starting next season, depending on where manager John Short wants to take this team. And just didn't play good enough to get a vote of confidence from the organization. And whether that's on him or that's on the organization, that's up for you to decide. But for me, that always looks sort of badly down on the player. I can't help but be frustrated with this. Crayar, you at least, if you're an organization, you at least got to give him 4 games. At least 4 games. He didn't look good in the 1, so I get it though. So I give this pick a flat F. This is not what you want in a number 8. You don't want a bridge quarterback who maybe will take you 1 more year. If I'm John, I'm taking one of those first rounders that I have this year, and I'm drafting myself a new quarterback because this is not something that I would look forward to if I was him. My pizza will be delivered at 7:32 p.m. Anyway, moving on. That's about 15 minutes. Yeah, we got more. At pick 9, we got Gazelle Falk. This was a good pick. Matthew Maine's best friend, number 1 target in college. And like I said, Maines was that guy, and this was inevitably going to rub off on Falk. He's not the number 1 in that room, obviously, but he still has a really, really good year for the Hoplites. You got Zion Williams, obviously, at the top there with over 1,000 yards on the year. Kudos to him. Probably helped Maine's case out a little bit. But Gazelle Falk's only going to get better, man. 517 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 fumble. It's a great room. It's a crowded room. You know, it's a good room. And I think you're only going to get better when you're sitting behind a guy who just cracked 1,000 yards. You're only going to get better. There's room to develop for Falk, and with Maine's pitching on the ball, I can't help but think this is a really good pick. I'm going to give this a B+, A- in that range. I'm definitely leaning more toward the A-. He didn't quite have the crazy yards that you would love to see out of a first round wide receiver, but just a tremendous option. Not mad at the pick at all. And then at 10, moving on, we got the Towers pick. They wind up going with Gaston Malt-Cressel, who I'm going to just call GMC because he's a truck, apparently, at defensive line. Goes for 45 tackles, 2 sacks. And I think this is an important one to talk about here. You know, the Towers are selling house now because of a move they made pre-draft. Getting rid of King Salazar, the best DB to ever do it. Now, whether or not you think that's the right or the wrong move doesn't really matter because they wind up blowing it all up this season anyway. And it's easy to talk about what could have been on that roster. I think Gaston probably would have been better if he was walking right into that culture. But that rookie culture, that first year, man, that's important. And Gaston, GMC, for being the first defensive line prospect, disappoints. You know, I think it's important to think about the situation, but 2 sacks for the top defensive line prospect is not a savory look, especially when there were some other tremendous prospects in this draft like Fred Manderson, sorry. The Manders, man. Tremendous talent out of Manderson. We're going to talk about him more later. But GMC leaves a lot to be desired. Yeah, I think if you're considering getting rid of him, Owen, hit me up. Because I like first-round talent. But GMC obviously had a tough year. I think he's the type of guy that if you did keep him around, he's the type of guy that you only would expect to improve more so. But the question is he going to develop in time? Who knows? With 45 tackles, 2 sacks, I'm not super optimistic if I'm Owen right here. I'm giving it a C+, B-. I think definitely more on the C+ range. I like this 2-letter. It makes me sound like I'm smarter. But yeah, GMC, tough pick, C+. Moving on. Wait, actually, quick question. Did Phil get that right? No, Phil did not get that right. But that's because the Sentries, who'd the Sentries get again? No, they traded, and then 10 traded as well. So, okay, so he didn't really get it right, but he was close enough in the ballpark that he basically deserves the point for Phil. This man, Phil. So at pick 11, we got the top 3 DB prospect, number 2, Lenora Shaman to the Sentries. Goes for 33 tackles, 1 interception. Just another guy. You know, it's it's another case of is this who you want in the first round? Is this what you want in the first round? Is this the guy that you're going to game plan around when you're playing the Sentries? That's not the case. Lenoris winds up being a bit of a disappointment. I think he's considering where the Sentries defense is at. It's a bit more of a question if this is also a team issue or if this is an individual issue. I think this is going to be more on Lenoris though, more so than the GMC situation, because there wasn't exactly a culture death in Berg. But yeah, this is another C minus, probably more in the C minus range. Lenoris wasn't bad, wasn't good. He's going to be an upgrade. He's probably going to stick around on the Sentries for a few years, but I don't see him becoming a star unless he takes a big jump. But it's possible. Um, but now we're back to good things. We got pick number 12 here. I believe this was John's draft crush, and wowee does John's draft crush usually do so well. Linebacker Dane Brisker. This kid's a weapon. 5 forced fumbles, 51 tackles. This kid's a machine. He's a great pick. We're already talking about him in the top half of linebackers in the league last season. On par with MFK in chaos plays and Deklov last season. This is a great pick here by John. Really gets it right, assessing the talent. Brisker is the type of guy who's going to keep that window open. This is an interesting storyline that I've been thinking about a lot lately as a bit of a newer team with a expansion and whatnot. We've been clawing tooth and nail against these blue blood teams for the last few years. And I think finally, now that some of the retirements are starting to hit, some of them are falling off. But the Corsairs, while being a blue blood, are not one of those teams, and it's because of picks like these. Dane Brisker is a guy who single-handedly keeps the window open. He is the type of guy who you continue to build your defense around. That said, I mean, the Corsairs have so many guys that they can build the defense around, but he's a foundational piece for the future of Valtroit. Whatever you do, don't get rid of Brisker unless you're imploding the team, John. Because this is the guy. This is the type of guy that you build for. Tremendous pick. This is A plus. Great assessment of talent. I'm really excited to see what Brisker winds up doing. I think he's got a shot at being the best linebacker next year, if I'm so for real. And that's not Glaze. Brisker's good. He's the real deal. And I think Phil got it right, but maybe he had a little intel, little inside baseball from Philly holes there. One more point for Phil. Throw away your spreadsheets, man. Just listen to Phil. Phil knows. We're going next to pick 13. Lionel Paxton goes to the Griffins. This is another one where Phil didn't even have him on the board, I'm pretty sure. If I remember correctly, yeah. Phil did not have Paxton on the board. He also did not have him in the top tight end, top 3. He was the number 2 prospect behind Kronk. But he's really just not it. 291 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 fumble. I think it's definitely important to think about the fact that there's a little bit of bias here. Me and Ben are about to go into a dogfight. It's going to be the Cold War between the two of us. So take my analysis with a grain of salt. But I don't think Paxton is a guy that you run with. We're talking about him in the lower half of tight ends. Didn't really show any signs of anything crazy. Puts the ball on the turf. Only finds the end zone twice throughout the entirety of his 8-game season. Look for somebody else, if I'm so honest. I think that will be the case when the Griffins decide to go with Sansa, who everybody seems to talk about him like he's Superman. I'm not going to weigh in on that because I also think that's a conflict of interest. I think Sansa is going to be a good guy, generally speaking. But we'll see. And he really had a tight end that he liked in college. So Maybe this is Paxton's replacement. He gets 1 year, doesn't do so well at the dish, but at some point you got to ask yourself, when is it time for a rookie to just, you're not him. When you got to move on. And I think in 8 games, only doing that, it's not crazy. Maybe tight end too, if you only run 2 of them. I don't remember who else the Griffins are running, because they're irrelevant. I'm just kidding. Just got to throw the shade, man. Nothing but respect for the Griffins. But yeah, that's a C minus, maybe a D plus. Anyway, we're moving on. Pick 14, Jalen Alega. I'm just gonna call him Jalen. I don't know how to say the last one. I think it's Alega. But that's kind of hard to say, so I'm just gonna call him Jalen. Maybe J. Big J. He goes for 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 fumble. He finishes near that lower-ranked wide receiver in Sid Sip, who I had my eye on all year, but Sip and him were pretty close. This is not a great pick. I think it's tough for the Admirals here to get it right. Phil gets it right, though. Wowee. Good on you, Phil. Another one. Where was he on the top 3? Let's think about that. Yeah, he was 2. But Alea doesn't wind up being anything special. Jay, he had a questionable quarterback situation. I think it's important to talk about the Kayvon Holland stuff. I like Holland, man. I'm not gonna go around here and say Holland's a bad quarterback, because his numbers are less than stellar. But you got to think, what is he dealing with there with the Admirals organization? I don't know what Miranda's plan is for the future. I'm sure it'll be great. But he came in a turbulent time, Holland, and he didn't always have the vote of confidence from a manager because he wasn't always there. And maybe that rubs off onto Leia. I'm gonna have to guess that it probably isn't, just because of this sort of lackluster numbers. I'm giving him a C minus on this pick, and that's a hard C minus. Maybe you guys think it's a C. Just you guys, though. I wouldn't say that. Maybe I'd say that. I think it's a C minus, though. But yeah, Philly gets it right, except for with the top 3. My dasher picked up my order. Yeah, man, Little Caesars is running that. They got like $6 pizzas right now. Got the folks coming over for World Cup, man. Feed an army. But yeah, that's beside the point. We're talking about JFL here. This is inside the JFL with William Bushy. So tap in, twin. Number 15, though. This is a pick and a half. I told you we were going to talk about A-plus picks later. This is that A-plus pick. Brady, you struck gold in defensive back Jair Joseph. This guy's a machine. He's exactly what you want with your first-round pick. 7 interceptions, 58 tackles. He's already tied for 3rd in picks last year. This is another type of guy that you build around. We're talking about dudes that are keeping the window open. Now, the Sal's were close last year. They're 4-4. Close to missing, but they wind up sneaking in. Wound up getting bounced first round. Yours truly. It was a good game. Good game. A lot of respect for Brady. Does good things. But Jair Joseph, he's gonna do everything he can when you have Mander Magic as a bridge QB. He's gonna do everything he can to keep that window pried open, and I think that he will be able to do it. This is an A-plus pick. This is a no-doubter in my mind on the grade. I think Phil Holes calls it pretty right in the top 3 here. Did he in the mock draft, though? He did not in the mock draft, but I think that's because the Sal's did not have this pick in the mock draft. They did not. So we'll give you half a point, Phil. It's a little bit of a gray area, but you did get it right up here. Jair Joseph, definitely better than Ramsey's, but he's definitely better than another guy who got taken above him, which was in Lenoris. Got to think about that one, Lubu, next time, man. But yeah, Jair Joseph, game-changing player, A+, no doubt about it. He deserves all the glaze he gets. Yeah, that's that. Moving on, pick 16. We got Clay Moore going to the Hoplites. Uh, this is a really interesting linebacker room to talk about here. Clay Moore winds up going for 48 tackles with no chaos plays, which is not something you want to hear out of a first rounder. But they are sharing a room with one-time All-Pro Greg Regenreg, as well as a veteran and Season 3 All-Pro Jeremy Young. So it's a myriad of ages here. And I think Clay Moore is a guy that you want to give time to grow. You want to give him time to grow, because the rest of the linebacker room is solid enough. That they're all pros. He's going to learn from the both of them. Two different ages in those other two linebackers as well. So maybe a little bit of a different flavor of linebacking for Clay Moore. But I don't hate this pick. I think you got to give Clay some more time to develop. 48 tackles is also nothing to scoff at. This is a B minus in my book. I have a good outlook as well for the Hoplites. They're only going to keep getting better. Hopefully that means the same for Clay Moore. Got a couple more doozies for you here. Pick number 17 to the Paladins. Hemaris Armstead. I believe this was a correct call by Phil again. But in a different pick from the Griffins to the Paladins. So Phil Soul Reads gets it right still. He's got 465 yards. Armstead does 113 attempts, 3 touchdowns, 7 games. Middle of the pack running back. You can't complain. It's not what, like I said, it's not what you want out of a first round guy. But all considered, he's not terrible. He's nothing great either. You got the Paladins. I feel like are maybe a little bit confused as to what their strategy is going to be. Is this a team that's going to rob a couple wins from you, or is this a team that's ready to implode and rebuild? And I think Armstead's only going to get caught in the middle of that. I'm not super optimistic about him, but I think he seems pretty talented. Let's look at his description really quick. He was well rated in the top 3 for Phil there. He winds up being the number 2 prospect. Just call him Ham. I follow Ham. Power back, big trucker, out of rallies. Tracks for that college, but yeah, he's not bad. I don't hate it. I'm gonna give him a B minus. I think he's got room to improve. It's sort of like the Claymore situation that we just talked about. But yeah. Another running back goes off the board for the next pick. At number 18, Adrian Dames winds up going to the Kingfishers. And so once again, even though the teams change, Phil gets it right, man. On the pick anyway. Maybe not on the talent. I think he had him still in the 3rd. No, he didn't. He had Louis Martis still above that. So maybe he did get it right. Dames winds up going for 343 yards, 96 attempts, 2 touchdowns, and 3.6 yards per carry. 1 fumble. Not bad, not good. 120 yards or so behind Ham. So, I mean, what are you gonna do? Ham was taken first. Not the type of guy I build around if I'm Colt, but not gonna be a terrible running back 2 option either. Sort of reminds me of Leaf, man. I love Leaf. Leaf Kingston. Oh, hey, yo, the pizza here. We got Little Caesars on the desk, boys. And girls. And people. Wait 1 minute. I'm gonna take just a couple bites. I don't want to eat with the mic on. Alright, I got a slice in, but I got a little pineapple on the pizza. It's pretty good stuff, man. I don't know how y'all feel about it, but I love pineapple on pizza. It's good stuff. But yeah, we just finished talking about Adrian Dames. Give him a C, just in case I didn't drop the rating. I think he's bad. I think actually I would give him a little lower. I'd give him a C minus. Now that's a hard C minus, not an iffy C minus. Yeah, let's move on here. Pick 19. Whew. This is a bad one. This is a bad one to take all the bad ones. This one's a Daniel Hudson to the Paladins. Quarterback goes for 1,826 yards. So sorry, excuse me. On 10 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. 61.3% passing. Um, obviously we can talk about the wide receiver room, the supporting cast. We can talk about that all day. But at the end of the day, he's not delivering the ball. He's just not delivering the ball. So Daniel Hudson is a F. I think he's probably the he's probably worse than what's his name? I got him on here, Crayar. But maybe Crayar is worse because he did have worse passing, but we didn't really get a huge sample size out of Crayar. Hudson might not be the worst first round quarterback, but he's certainly the guy that I most certainly would move on from now. Um, Paladins, if you're listening, Alex, get him gone. Do something different, cause this guy is not the answer. Hudson, I know it's hard to be in the position you're in, man, but you got to deliver the ball a little bit better, man. Uh, yeah, that's that. Less interceptions, please. And finally, rounding out the first round. Also, Phil got that wrong because that one was out of left field. That one kind of, I think that was because maybe Alex wasn't at the draft. So, yeah, Phil, you're good, man. You're in a great. We're not take away any points for that. Pizza, man. Anyway, rounding out the first round, we got Khalif DeFort Jr. going to the Sharks. 514 yards, 37 receptions, 4 touchdowns, and a fumble. He's right there behind Falk, man. Uh, he's a tremendous player. I like DeFort a lot. I think maybe Maines and the Gazelle Falk connection maybe had a bit of a reason to do with Falk finishing a bit higher than Khalif. But Khalif did have sort of an all-timer delivering in the ball. So wait, actually, did they have? Oh, yeah, Tiber was still, yeah. Brain fart, man. Brain fog. I also just don't know the old guys the way y'all know the old guys, man. I love Tiber though. Tiber gets way too much hate. Cleve winds up doing a good job with an absolute machine slinging the ball. Uh, he's right there. I think this is a good ad. I'm really curious to see how he does with Conan throwing him the ball now. I think this is a B plus pick. I don't think it's bad. I think it's one of the better wide receivers you get in the first round. Um, Maybe A minus even, but it's not quite that star that you want in the first round, and so for that reason, I'm giving him a little bit of a bump down. But I think Khalif's a good player, and I think he's only going to grow, especially after 1 year under Tiber. You saw, I mean, we all know the Mason Mountain connection with him basically manufacturing Mountain's greatness. Um, but yeah, and this one also Phil got wrong, but this was because of team switch up. So, and I think for what it's worth, he did get it right. Yeah, he had him number 3 there in top 3, though that wasn't the most correct because uh, I'd say Aleo was much worse, and maybe DeFort was a bit better than Falk. Who knows? But yeah, not a bad pick here by the Sharks. Like it a lot. B plus. So that sort of concludes our draft, our first round recap. Um, I do want to talk about a couple other quick things really quick. We're going to talk about the biggest busts. Vaughn Guevara. 1 game played, zeros all around on the board, no touchdowns, no receptions, no yards. He was the 22nd pick by the Lancers here in the second round. And just a bust. Not even serviceable. Not someone that you probably can't start. Obviously, I think he deserves more time, Ty, than 1 game played, man. But especially with like Clay Duke's throwing him the ball, like give him another try, man. I don't know. But yeah, it's a tough situation for Vaughn. But obviously, you go out there in your debut. No one's ever saying, "Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to 0 receptions in my first game." Um, So maybe he needs to step it up a bit more. And for what it's worth, the Lancers wound up rebounding later. They wound up getting a good DB at Kaiser Sharps later in the round. But yeah, that was a pretty bad bust in my opinion. Unless he winds up panning out when Ty inevitably gives him more reps, Ty, because you should. Um, and then the second biggest bust I saw was Omar Gillard Ernella. This is actually a guy that I also liked in the draft, so thank you Brady for drafting him. So I didn't. In 4 games, 4 tackles. This was the Sal's at 36. Um, maybe give him more than 4 games, but you're really at that point where it's like it's probably a safe bet. Um, he could still have some upside in him. I think you're also it's kind of hard to look good maybe if uh, the whole side of the field is getting taken up by Jair. I don't know. Maybe they just don't work well together. Maybe he's a bit more of a zone and uh, Jair is more of a man. I don't really know the case there, but 4 games, 4 tackles. It's not a great look. I'd say that's generally a bust, but we'll see. He certainly didn't have the best numbers out of a lot of the guys that I was peeking around at. Um, the other two is Hudson to the Paladins, which we already talked about, and DeMarcus Crear, the two F quarterbacks in the first round. Move on, boys. Unless you need them for 1 year for a bridge, John Short. Otherwise, find somebody new, man. But there were a couple other busts, but I don't think any of them were quite as notable. Um, Now we got gems. Now, ooh, I couldn't believe he fell because I think Phil had him in here too. Yeah, LeVar Raymond at pick 32 for the Corsairs. This was a tremendous pick by John again. John Soul reads this, man. It's almost like Phil and him. They know. LeVar Raymond, 38 tackles, 8 sacks in his rookie year. What a player. This is another guy who's going to keep that window open. This is why you can't count the Corsairs out. This is why the Golden West exists. It is because of picks like this. It is because of late round steals, late round stars that they are finding. Shame on the rest of the league for not finding LeVar quicker. Winds up, he's going to be a tremendous Corsair. He's probably going to spend his career there. He's probably going to win a Jupiter Bowl if the Corsairs keep drafting like this. But yeah, kudos to John Short for this. Or not John Short. John Eaton. Jay Eats. Great pick. Another one that I really liked here, considering where it was taken, was tight end Bart Washington III from the Cobras. He only winds up with 288 yards on 27 receptions with 4 touchdowns. But considering that he was taken in the 3rd round, this is a solid pick. I mean, this is a guy who's probably going to start for you. Maybe not at tight end 1 for his whole career, but maybe at tight end 2. And, who knows? Maybe he gets better. You got to think about who's throwing the ball. I like Ben Kennedy. I'm not worried about Ben Kennedy when I'm playing Ben Kennedy, though. So maybe it's the rest of the team and it's not him, but I think it might be Ben Kennedy. But either way, a good performance from Bart Washington here. And to pat myself on the back, at pick 54, I grabbed defensive lineman Jaleel Alfalfa. Alfalfa is now a part of the best defensive line in the league, Ben. 44 tackles, 4 sacks. Really happy to get him, but oh my goodness. I don't think anybody could have saw this coming. Pick 56, defensive lineman Fred Manderson. I believe this was the Hoplites, and they got the pick from the Salamanders, and I imagine the Salamanders will be kicking themselves for quite a while over that, because Manderson would have been great to pair with Mander, man. You would have had the Manderson-Mander magic. That would have been something else. But either way, great pick here by Marion. 52 tackles, 9 sacks. This is a star. right up there with LeVar Raymond. More tackles and one more sack. Later in the round as well. This is a clear gem in my opinion. So yeah, this is a good one. And then my final call here is pick 58 for the Griffins. Credit where credit is due, you pompous asshole. Keo Roosh was a good decision. He's not bad for a third round quarterback. Uh, uh yeah, I like Kale a lot. I think he's gonna do good things. I think he's on the move to the Sabres, right? Yeah, I think the Sabres. So excited to see what he does. He winds up being a bit of a bridge quarterback, but considering where he was taken, I'd say that was a bit of a gem. And wound up turning into a pick higher, I believe. I think it was a second that was traded for him. Wait, no. What am I thinking for? I could just look. Uh, yes. Whatever you guys are talking about. Yeah, Kale Roosh and a second to the Leopards for a season 11 first. Winds up being a great return on investment. So yeah, kudos to Ben for that. Um, that's sort of all I wanted to cover today. The only other storyline that I really want to mention is the Towers implosion winds up sort of sending shockwaves through the trade market. Sort of escalates the Cold War between me and Ben. Ben and I, Tyrants and Griffins. We're Magic and Birdman. We're gonna change the game. I promise you that. But I wouldn't count on any of these other teams, man. Corsair, Sabres, Emperors, Hoplites. A lot of good teams in there. I mean, I think the Glaciers are on the up and up too. It's gonna be a competitive league for a very long time. In the very near and far future. Especially if Ben keeps getting all these picks, man. But yeah, I think the state of the league is in a good place. Um, the transactions have been interesting. I think there's been a lot of interesting buys. I've been happy to be on the winning end of some of these trades. I think I won the DeMar Williams trade. Um, Pretty happy with that. Roland Millet. By the way, John, if you're watching this, Roland Millet and Casar Sanchez are both still on my roster. They weren't moved over. Just in case uh, you don't remember to do that, but I'm sure you will. You usually remember everything. Um, I think this was an interesting pick. I don't. The towers are so. Oh, and I don't know what you're doing all the time, man. Sometimes I just don't know. But they wind up going. They moved the pick that they got for pick 11 in exchange for pick 15. So they moved down a little bit. Maybe the person that they want is later in the round, but they wind up getting ZJ Wagner in a fourth as well. I don't remember ZJ being crazy. Another couple of moves. Donnie Explorer and Ronald Coldwide get swapped between Towers and Griffins. Griffins pick up 2 extra sacks if we're talking in last season's number. Ricard Reese as well. There's a lot of drama there. Dather's coming to me. Paver and Barraza go to the Glaciers. Lester Boyle goes to the Sentries. I did not keep track of that. I don't know a lot about some of these guys, but either way, I think the shockwave might be over now. I think most of the Towers trading is sort of up, and I'm excited to see who they decide to take in the first round. Owen, I'm looking big for you. Another thing that I'm excited to see is I'm excited to see if Tristan and Mateo do wind up going tight end in the draft, or if they wind up finding Jesco. But it was pointed out that he was I don't remember who said it, but I think he was expensive or something. I think the money is maybe not there. But all that said, I'm really optimistic about this next season. Let's make season 10 special, JFL. Um, Thank you all so much for listening. I hope this only continues to get better. I'm going to try to get a better camera because the webcam is not the best. And hopefully we'll do these with more than just me in the future, so it's a little bit more back and forth. But yeah, that's sort of my analysis of the whole thing. I appreciate you guys for sticking around, and I genuinely can't believe that I've recorded 2 of these things. And this one is even longer than the first one. So, yeah, enjoy me. ya goofs. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Uh, till next time on Inside the JFL.